Okay, part 3 of why aspiring professional speakers fail to make it almost every time. And this is a really, really big part of this. Most people that attempt to get paid to speak think what they're doing as speakers is what we get paid to do as professional speakers. Most people that enter the business, including me, before I met Bill Gove, I had no idea, like most people, what this was all about. I didn't know professional speaking was a performance art, like singing and dancing and acting. I just thought you got up there and you spoke, and if you weren't afraid, well, people would pay you. Well, that's not the way it works. And so most people that start to speak in the business, they try to break into the business, think they're teachers. And I did the same thing. I thought I was a teacher on mental toughness because I was a mental toughness coach. And I thought, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach mental toughness to my audiences like I do to my students, my professional athletes and amateur athletes and Olympic athletes, because that's what I did there. Of course, I was making $40,000 a year doing that, and professional speakers can make that in a day, sometimes more. And so it's a completely different thing. And so what happens is, people enter this business thinking, I'm a really good speaker. I don't understand why I'm failing. And here's the difference. Professional speakers are more like entertainers than they are like teachers. I'm talking about keynote speakers. I'm not talking about doing workshops and seminars and those kinds of things, although you have to be entertaining to charge a lot of money for those programs, okay? Because it's not just about the information, it's the way you deliver the information. It has to be exciting, it has to be entertaining, and most of all, it has to hold the attention of an audience that would probably rather be playing with their phone or doing almost anything else than listening to a speaker, unless you're entertaining and exciting and fun. And that's the difference. So people say all the time, I'm a great speaker. They'll come up to you at the end of a program, and every speaker that does this for a living has this happen, and it's kind of a running joke among professional speakers that you'll give a speech and people will line up to talk to you, or you'll do a book signing after your speech, and people will line up and you'll think, well, they're going to tell me how great I was. In the beginning, that's what you think. And what a lot of times people say is, I could do, no offense, Steve, but I could give that speech better than you. I mean, I think you're great and everything, but I'm not afraid to speak. I speak at meetings in my company all the time. I speak at Toastmasters. I speak at church. I speak at the Rotary Club. I think I could probably get paid to speak because what you just did, I could totally do. See, what they don't understand is that when professional speaking is done really well, it looks really easy. It's unlike a heart surgeon, okay? You see, I've never seen heart surgery in person. I guess most people haven't, unless you're a doctor or a nurse or something. But I've seen it on TV. I've seen it in documentaries, and it looks really difficult, okay? Like, I don't watch a heart surgeon on TV thinking, oh, I could totally do that, because it's difficult and it looks difficult. Professional singing, acting, dancing, juggling, comedy, any of the performance arts tend to look easy because when a professional does it, it just looks real easy. It's like watching Jimmy Kimmel on a talk show, or Jimmy Fallon, or the late Johnny Carson, or Jay Leno, or David Letterman. You watch them interview people on television. Oprah is another one, right? Oprah's a billionaire because she was such a good interviewer. A billionaire. Pretty amazing, but all of them are extremely rich, right? Why is that? They make something that's actually very difficult to do look easy. Now, I don't know if you've ever hosted a talk show or interviewed people on camera, like across a desk, like they do, Jimmy Kimmel does, or Jimmy Fallon, or any of those guys. If you've ever done that before. I've done it lots of times all over the world. It is really hard. It's hard to make it look natural. And those people make it look like they're just having this conversation over coffee. Go and try it if you haven't done it, and then put it on camera and you tell me what it looks like, because very few people can do it at that level. And I can't do it at that level either in terms of being a host. But when it's done really well, it looks really easy. Professional speaking is the same way. You watch a speaker get up there. I've done programs with pretty much every major speaker of the last 25 years around the world, every major speaker in the United States almost. I've been on stages with and worked with and all that, because it's not that many people. It's less than 100 people that own this business in the United States that are non-celebrities. And so I've watched those people. I traveled with Bob Proctor, almost nonstop for 3 years in the beginning of my career with Bill Gove and Bob Proctor. And people used to say all the time that were big Bob Proctor fans, they'd say, well, we think Bob's great, but I could totally do what he does. Well, odds are no one that ever said that could do what Bob Proctor did. Bob Proctor was a showman. And I don't mean that in an inauthentic way. I mean, he was completely authentic. He was one of my best friends. I mean, I knew him very well. But he was a showman in terms of, in the context of professional speaking at that level is show business. It's not teaching. If you're a teacher, you're not going to get paid millions of dollars a year to be a speaker. You're not going to get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to be a speaker. That's why college professors at Harvard make $100,000 a year. College professor at Harvard, MIT, Stanford, check out what they make. It's public. If it's a public university, it's what they get paid is public. Look it up. They get paid a speaker will make $100,000 in a speech sometimes if the audience is large enough and the offering is solid. Okay, so why? What's the difference? Why a Harvard professor shouldn't be making more than a speaker that might have a junior college education? Bob Proctor had an 8th grade education. He made millions and millions of dollars. Why is that? He was a performer. Professional speaking at the highest level is a performance art. Okay, what does this mean? You need to learn how to perform, not how to speak, not how to talk, how to perform. You have content, you have stories, you have anecdotes, you have all these things that we use in professional speaking. You need to learn how to perform those things. In other words, Bob Proctor, one time we were working with Bob Proctor and Bill Gove. I was working with Bob Proctor and Bill Gove at Saddlebrook Resort, speaking to a convention there. This is probably 20 years ago. Well, it was at least 20 years ago because Bill's been gone that long. And for about 2,000 people. And Bob Proctor got on stage and introduced Bill Gove, and he said, Bill Gove is such a great speaker, such a great performer, he could take a restaurant menu and make it come alive. And Bob was right, and so could Bob, for that matter. And any top professional speaker can do that. They can take something boring and make it exciting, make you want to move forward, motivate you, drive you, inspire you. Teachers, and everyone loves teachers, right? They're all underpaid. Teachers can be inspiring, but not at the performance, in the context of performance. So when people say, I'm a really good speaker, I can do what you do, and all those kinds of things, could they talk? Could they get up and talk and not be afraid? Yes. Can they perform at the highest level? Most likely not, unless they're trained and they're talented and they're skilled. The good thing is, anyone, for the most part, I wouldn't say anyone, but most people can learn the skills because it's more of a skill set than it is a talent. Although the talent plays a role, skills is what it's all about. That's what Bill Gove taught the industry, skills. You got to have those skills because you can't fake skills. Once you get on that stage, it's you, an audience, and a microphone. And you either have the skills or you don't, and you can't fake it. I love that. It's very democratic in that sense. So you're either that good or you're not. It's like sports. You're either better than the other guy or better than the other team, or you're not. And that's the bottom line. So it's very fair, very democratic. But the bottom line is that's that's probably one of the biggest reasons is people say, I'm a really good speaker. I'm a really good speaker. I don't know. I've had people say this to me all over, and every speaker has. And I say, well, I'm sure you are a great speaker. They'll say, no offense, Steve, but I think I'm better than you. We have them come to the Bill Gove Speech Workshop. We've had them come for 25 years. And literally, it's a running joke among our staff that people say, no offense to Steve, but I've watched him on YouTube or on video, or I've seen him live, and I'm better than he is. No offense to Steve, I don't want to hurt his feelings, but I'm better. Okay, what they think is this is teaching. They think they can teach as well as I can or another speaker, and or their favorite speakers can, and that's probably 100% true. What they can't do and what they pay for is performance, not teaching. If you're a teacher, you're going to fail in this business if all you do is teach. You're not worth hardly anything in the marketplace. Teachers are certainly important. But do you know how much teachers make? Again, the Harvard professor, the brilliant Harvard professors making $100,000 a year. A speaker with an 8th grade education that can perform the words as opposed to just teach the words is worth $100,000 an hour in some cases, depending on the audience. Okay, so what's the rub? I mean, what do? You get professional training. I was failing my first year. I lost $50,000 my first year. Someone introduced me to Bill Gove's speech workshop. I went to the Bill Gove speech workshop. The next year I made $182,000. My second year, because I became a performer like a Bob Proctor, not at that level, but I became a performer like those guys. Getting as good as I could. I went from a teacher to a performer, and that's the difference. And that's what I learned in the Bill Gove Speech Workshop. You can take that workshop online right now. Go to speechworkshop.com, take the online course. It's a 15-hour online course. Or get training somewhere, professional training. But whatever it is, learn to perform. It's not teaching. If you teach, you're going to be relegated to a very, very low level of professional speaking, or most likely you'll fail. Okay, you become a performer, the sky's the limit. That's what professional speaking is all about. It's a performance art.